That is the most sophisticated lie you've ever told, and you learned it before you even knew how to spell. You said it again today, didn't you? I'm fine. Someone asked how you were, and the words left your mouth before you even checked. Maybe you'd been crying in the car 10 minutes earlier. Maybe you swallowed something heavy, fixed your face, and walked back in smiling like nothing happened. You handle the hard stuff alone, quietly, where no one has to see. And you've worn that forced smile so long, you've stopped noticing it's even there. But here's what no one ever told you, that I'm fine isn't a sentence. It's a scar. If any of this is already landing a little too close, take a second and subscribe. What we're about to walk into is the kind of thing people carry their whole lives without ever once getting to name it. Because that phrase didn't come from nowhere. Somewhere, a long time ago, a small version of you learned that seeming okay was the only safe way to be. And today, we're going back to find the exact moment it started. The childhood wound hiding behind, I'm fine. There's a particular kind of person who can fall apart completely and still answer, I'm fine, without blinking. You know the one. The friend everyone leans on, the one who remembers your birthday, who asks how you're doing and somehow never gets asked back. From the outside, they look steady, capable, almost unbothered. But inside, there's a whole storm they've learned to narrate calmly. That gap between what's happening in them and what they let you see isn't dishonesty. It's a skill. And like every skill, somebody taught it. Here's the strange part. Saying, I'm fine, when you're not doesn't feel like lying to you. It feels like manners, like protecting people. You genuinely believe you're sparing everyone the inconvenience of your wait. So you smile, you nod, you change the subject, and you carry it home alone. This is the quiet architecture of masking distress, the constant, low-level work of keeping your face one step ahead of your feelings. Most people never notice they're doing it. You've done it so long it just feels like your personality. But this didn't start with you deciding to be strong. To understand it, we have to go back, way back, to a version of you small enough that your whole world fit inside one house. Picture that child for a second. Picture the moment they felt something big, fear, sadness, a need for comfort, and looked up, expecting someone to meet it. Now picture what they actually found there, because what was waiting in that moment is the whole story. For a lot of people, what was waiting was not much, not cruelty, necessarily. Just absence. A parent too tired, too stressed, too checked out to notice. A house where big feelings made the air go tense, where crying got you a sharp look instead of an open arm. You weren't punished for falling apart, exactly. You just slowly learned that falling apart got you nothing, or worse, got you alone. And a child who learns that learns it fast. This is what psychologists call emotional neglect, and it's sneaky precisely because nothing dramatic has to happen. No bruises, no screaming, no story you could point to and say that's where it broke. Just 1,000 tiny moments where you reached out emotionally and the room stayed quiet. Childhood emotional invalidation rarely looks like a tragedy. It looks like a kid being told you're okay when they were not okay, until eventually they stopped knowing the difference. Sit with how small that is and how much it shaped. So what does a small person do, stuck in a place where their feelings don't fit? They adapt. They're brilliant at it, actually. The child looks around, reads the room, and quietly concludes, my big emotions are a problem here. So I'll make them smaller. I'll handle them myself. I'll become easy. This is adaptive child survival in its purest form. Not weakness, not malfunction, but a tiny strategist doing the smartest possible thing with the situation they were handed. And the strategy worked. That's the part that haunts. It worked, so it stayed. The child who learned to swallow their needs became the adult who genuinely can't locate them anymore. Someone asks, what do you need right now? And you go blank, not because you're hiding it, but because that channel got shut off decades ago. This is the fawn response wearing grown-up clothes. Keep the peace, manage the mood in the room, make yourself useful and unbothersome, and whatever you do, don't add to anyone's load. Your nervous system filed having needs under danger a long, long time ago. And here's where it gets quietly heartbreaking. The I'm fine wasn't only protecting them, it was protecting you. The child decided, somewhere deep, that their pain was too much for the people around them to hold, so they held it themselves. They became the parent of their own feelings way too early. That fear of being a burden you carry into every room as an adult. It was born in a house where, somehow, you got the message that your inner life was a weight other people shouldn't have to lift. Think about what that costs over a lifetime. Every "I'm fine" is a tiny withdrawal from your own honesty, and you've been making them daily for years. The bottling up of feelings stops being a choice and becomes a reflex, automatic, invisible, running underneath everything. You don't decide to hide pain any more than you decide to blink. And the loneliest part isn't that other people don't see you. It's that you've gotten so good at the performance, sometimes you can't see you either. Which raises a question you may have never asked. What would it even mean to not be fine, out loud, in front of someone? For a lot of people carrying this, the idea is genuinely dizzying. Not because they don't want connection, but because the wiring runs the other way. Letting someone see the storm feels less like relief and more like standing in a doorway with no clothes on. That's nervous system dysregulation doing exactly what it was trained to do. Flag honesty as threat. The body learned the rules early, and the body, as it turns out, keeps the receipts. We just have to learn how to read them. Let me tell you about a person. We'll keep them nameless, because honestly, they could be anyone. A man in his late 30s, successful, the kind of guy whose co-workers describe him as so easygoing. He came to therapy not because he was sad, but because he felt nothing. Numb. He couldn't cry at his own father's funeral, and it scared him. When the therapist asked about his childhood, he shrugged. It was fine. Normal. That word again. It took months before the real story started to surface. What surfaced wasn't abuse. It was a kitchen. He remembered being maybe 7, scraping his knee badly, running inside in tears, and his mother, without looking up, saying, "You're okay, go play." Over and over, that scene, in 100 variations. He wasn't unloved. He was just unseen emotionally. Nobody ever asked the second question. And so this little boy did the math early. My feelings are mine to manage. By adulthood, he'd managed them so well he'd managed himself right out of feeling anything at all. The forced smile had calcified into a face. Here's what cracked it open for him, and it might do something in you too. His therapist asked him to picture that 7-year-old at the kitchen door, knee bleeding, tears coming, and then asked, what did he need to hear? The man, this composed, easygoing man, broke completely. Because he knew. He'd always known. The child just needed someone to kneel down, look at him, and say, "That hurts. Huh, come here." Nobody did. So he'd spent 30 years being the someone who never came. That's the thing about this wound. The attachment wound isn't really about the bad things that happened to you. It's about the good things that didn't. The comfort that never arrived. The door that stayed shut. The question nobody thought to ask. And those absences are nearly impossible to grieve. Because how do you mourn something you can't even remember not getting? You just grow up with a vague sense that you're somehow too much and not enough at the same time. Hold on to that contradiction. It matters. There's real science under all of this, and it's worth knowing. Back in the 1970s, a psychologist named Edward Tronick ran what's now called the still face experiment. A mother plays warmly with her baby, then, on cue, goes blank, expressionless, unresponsive, present but not really there. Within minutes, the baby tries everything to get her back, reaching, cooing, squealing. And when nothing works, the baby collapses inward, turns away, self-soothes, gives up. In 2 minutes. Imagine that reaction, but stretched across an entire childhood. That's the engine underneath insecure attachment. A child cannot survive a parent who is simply gone, so they don't even try for long. They turn inward. They become their own flat, still face, calm on the surface, scrambling underneath, and eventually not even scrambling. Just quiet. That quiet is the learned silence you carry now, the one that makes "I'm fine" come out smooth as glass while something behind your ribs is still reaching for a face that won't look back. The body remembers the reaching even when you don't. And this is where the masking turns into something more tangled. When the people who were supposed to be safe were also the source of the ache, a child's wiring gets crossed in a specific way. Closeness starts to mean danger, and distance starts to mean safety, and the two get braided together so tightly you can't tell them apart. This is the strange logic of disorganized attachment, wanting to be held and flinching from the hand at the very same instant. As an adult, it feels like sabotaging the very connection you're starving for, so you end up walking on eggshells inside your own relationships, scanning for the moment it's about to go wrong, bracing for a withdrawal that may never even come. You over-apologize for things that aren't yours to carry. You say sorry for crying, sorry for needing, sorry for taking up the smallest sliver of someone's afternoon. Each sorry is a tiny echo of a child who once concluded that their existence was an imposition. And nobody around you can hear the echo, because all they hear is a polite, agreeable, lovely person who's somehow never quite there. Notice what all of this has in common. Every single one of these patterns, the masking, the fawning, the apologizing, the numbness, was, at the start, an act of intelligence. Read that again, because the shame in you will want to argue with it. You did not develop these traits because something was wrong with you. You developed them because something was right with you, a survival system sharp enough to read a difficult environment and bend you into a shape that could make it through. The bending was genius. The problem is, the danger's gone and you're still bent. Here's something concrete you can do, and it's smaller than you'd think. The next time "I'm fine" rises up automatically, don't even try to stop it. Just notice to yourself, there it goes again, the old reflex. That's it. You're not fixing anything yet. You're just turning on a light in a room that's been dark your whole life. Awareness is the first crack in any wall, because you can't soften a pattern you can't see, and you're starting right now to see. Let's go back one more time, but gently now. Picture that child you were, the one who learned to go quiet, to handle it, to say "I'm fine," before anyone could ask twice. I want you to notice something about them that you've probably never given them credit for. They weren't weak. They were loyal. Loyal to a family that needed them to be easy. Loyal to a peace that depended on their silence. That kid gave up their own voice to keep the room calm. That's not a flaw. That's one of the most selfless things a small person can do. The trouble is that loyalty got encoded as identity. Somewhere along the line, "I am someone who doesn't need much" stopped feeling like a strategy and started feeling like the truth about you. But it was never the truth. It was a translation. As a child, you had real needs, for comfort, for attention, for someone to witness your insides, and you translated them into a language your environment could tolerate: silence, smallness, self-sufficiency. You didn't lose your needs. You just learned to say them in a tongue nobody, including you, can hear anymore. And here's the quietly stunning thing about translation. A language you learned, you can unlearn. You can learn another. The suppressed emotions you've kept folded up for decades didn't disappear. They've just been waiting, patient as anything, for a version of you safe enough to feel them. That's what this whole inward journey actually is, not building someone new, but slowly teaching the old reflexes that the danger they're still guarding against ended a long time ago. The war is over. Somebody just has to tell the soldier. That somebody, it turns out, is you. This is where reparenting comes in, and it's far less mystical than it sounds. It simply means becoming, for yourself, the presence you needed and didn't get. When something in you hurts, instead of the old "you're okay, get over it," you try the words nobody said. That's hard. Of course it hurts. You become the adult who kneels at the kitchen door. Slowly, the inner child healing happens not through some dramatic breakthrough, but through 10,000 small moments of finally being met. Try this one, genuinely. Find a photo of yourself as a kid, 5, 6, 7. Look at their face. Not the adult you, looking for flaws. Just the child who hadn't done anything wrong yet. Now say to them, out loud if you can, the thing you most needed to hear back then. "You're not too much. I see you. You don't have to earn it." It'll feel ridiculous for about 4 seconds. And then, For a lot of people, it stops feeling ridiculous and starts feeling like the first real conversation they've had with themselves in years. What you're rebuilding slowly is emotional safety, but this time from the inside, where no one can take it away. The whole tragedy of the original wound was that your safety depended on other people getting it right, and they didn't, and you were too small to do anything but adapt. You're not small anymore. The capacity to be the steady, attuned presence in your own life, that's not a fantasy. That's earned secure attachment, and the word earned is the hopeful part. It means it was never only about what you were given, it's also about what you build. None of this means the "I'm fine" disappears overnight. It won't. That phrase is a deep groove worn in over a lifetime, and grooves don't vanish. They fade with repetition, with patience, with self-compassion that you actually practice instead of just admire from a distance. Some days you'll catch the reflex and choose something truer. Some days you'll only notice it 3 hours later. Both count. Progress here isn't a straight line. It's a slow, forgiving spiral, circling the same wound but a little freer each time around. And the goal was never to become someone who overflows with feelings to everyone. That's not health either. The goal is choice. To reach a place where "I'm fine" is something you say because it's true, not because the truth feels too dangerous to set down in front of another human being. To know the difference between privacy, which you choose, and hiding, which chooses you. One is a door you close. The other is a door you've forgotten how to open. We're just oiling the hinges. So maybe the question isn't, why do I say I'm fine when I'm falling apart? Maybe you finally got the answer to that one. Maybe the better question now is, what would it feel like, just once, to let one safe person see the falling apart? And discover that the room doesn't go cold, the face doesn't go blank, the door doesn't shut, that the thing you were so sure was too much was always just a child asking to be held. That experiment is the whole rest of the road, because everything you built, the silence, the smile, the smooth "I'm fine," you built to survive a world that couldn't hold you. And that world isn't your world anymore. The walls you mistook for who you are turn out to be a coat you put on in a cold house a long time ago. You're allowed to notice you're not in that house now. You're allowed to feel how warm it's gotten. And you're allowed, finally, to take the coat off, slowly, on your own terms, in front of someone who'll stay. So let me leave you with this. Everything we walked through today, the masking, the silence, the reflex of "I'm fine," none of it was ever proof that something was broken in you. It was proof that something in you was working, brilliantly, to keep a small person safe in a place that couldn't quite hold them. That, "I'm fine," was never who you are. It was the language you learned to speak when the true one wasn't welcome. And the most hopeful thing I know is this: a language you learned, you can learn your way out of. Not overnight. But really. Now I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually sit with it before you scroll on. When you were a child, 5, 6, 7, what was the one thing you most needed to hear, and never did? Don't rush past that. Let it surface. And then, if you're willing, do something brave for me. Drop one word in the comments that describes the child you used to be. Just one. Quiet. Tired. Invisible. Good. Whatever rises up first. You'll be stunned how many strangers down there were the very same kind of kid. You were never as alone in this as you felt. And if any of this reached something in you, you don't have to do anything with that right now. Just notice it landed, and let that be enough for today. There's no rush on a road this long. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for staying all the way to the end of this one. I know this isn't easy material to sit with, and the fact that you did, that you let yourself look, says everything about where you're headed. So here's the truth, plain as I can say it. You were never too much, and you were never too little. You were just a child who learned to whisper "I'm fine" into a room that wasn't listening, and the room, finally, is listening now. And maybe, sitting here now, you've started to feel the shape of it, the quiet that raised you. But notice something. We keep circling back to that empty room, that parent who was there but not really there, the comfort that never came, and we keep calling it almost nothing. It wasn't that bad. Nothing really happened. That's the strangest part of this whole wound, isn't it? The thing that shaped you most was a thing that, On the surface, looks like absolutely nothing at all. And there's a reason it hides so well. A name for the kind of damage that leaves no mark, no memory, no story to point to. A wound made entirely of what wasn't there,